What's going on, guys? Magdallon here. Today I want to react to this video by a guy named Nico2LO, Nico2lo. Not sure exactly how that's pronounced, but why I refunded Diablo 2 after playing the beta. And the reason I wanted to react to this is I played it and had pretty negative opinions about it, and I don't have any skin in the game. I haven't pre-ordered, and this guy has. And I did listen to the first minute or two, and already I thought, okay, I've got a couple things to say about this, or a couple comments, etc. And so I thought it would be interesting to go through and hear what somebody who actually put some money on the line has to say, and does his opinions match up to mine? Where do we differ? Where are we the same? So on and so forth. So let's get into it.
So first and foremost, this is not a review. There's 100, videos out there already, including mine, by the way, that have a first impressions in there, have feedback in there. There's a little bit of that in this video as well, but this is not really supposed to be a review piece that goes over every single thing in detail. It's more, why did I play the game? What did it do for me? Was I having fun? Was I bored? Like, was I frustrated or was I engaged? Like, those kind of things that I was basically asking myself throughout playing Diablo 4.
Yep, I was asking similar stuff.
And as of right now, I have refunded Diablo 4 entirely. Well, first weekend, I was basically trying out Sorcerer and Barbarian, and, well, as you know already, Sorcerer is many times better than Barbarian in almost any way, even at the highest level as of right now, at least.
It seems like that maybe has changed a little bit. I was actually just messing around on the Barbarian a little bit ago, getting some final footage here at the end of the last evening of the open beta. And the Barbarian's actually pretty fun to play. You kind of get pigeonholed, I think, into basically the build that Kripparrian talked about in his class rankings video. But once I got that set up, I was able to have a pretty good time. And you get all the war cries going, and you do feel fairly mobile. Though, I mean, it still doesn't really compare to the Sorcerer. But I don't know if I would say it's worse in every way.
Of course, this is just in Act 1. But, well, this is also something that I want to mention really quick in the beginning of the video already. A lot of the endgame stuff is out there to explore already.
True.
To an extent. They have, showcased and shown many times what we can expect from the endgame, and also we can go through most legendary aspects, unique items already as well as of right now. So this is not,
and I think there's a lot of people who have said recently, I think there's two camps. There's people who are saying you can't really draw any final conclusions because you haven't played the entire campaign, and then you have another group of people who are saying you can't really draw any conclusions because you haven't played the end game. And I think there's some general confusion about who the game is for. And so if it's for casual players, then they're mostly going to be playing the campaign. And the first 3, 4, maybe 5 hours of that is really going to determine their overall experience, I think, in a large way. And if the game is aimed, if what people are saying is, well, the beginning of the campaign doesn't matter that much because it's more focused on the end game, well, that's not the part of the game that's going to cater to the exact group of people that everyone says Blizzard is always catering to. And so I think there's a little bit of cognitive dissonance there in the responses that I've seen all over the place from different content creators. My position is, in any game that you're charging $60, $70, $80, $90 for, the first 4 hours should absolutely fucking slap. And especially if you're a company like Blizzard, who is, known for making games that take an established genre and open them up to the wider audiences of the gaming community, then you should expect that they would deliver a relatively balanced, a relatively fluid, a passionate rendition of the genre, particularly in the opening sequences of their offering. And it was my view that they did not do that. And particularly with class balance, it's all over the place, and Blizzard just had to come out and say, well, this and this and this is going to be different at the end game, and the Barbarian's going to scale differently because of this and that at the end game. And frankly, I just don't think for most of the people that are going to be playing Diablo 4, that they're really going to be getting to the very tippy top of the end game where they're going to be fully realizing all of the possible ways that the different character classes are going to eventually be sort of normalized and balanced.
Like, for the people who are saying, oh my god, you don't know what the end game will be like, of course we don't really know, but there's a lot of things that are, you know, showcasing a lot of endgame stuff already. And even in just the beta, there's a lot of systems that will persist throughout the entire game. And well, that gives a good indication of like what the game will really, you know, feel like. So first of all, I think I need to talk about my class choice, because it probably affected my opinion of the game a lot. I went into the first beta thinking, I'm just gonna try out Barbarian, and in the second beta I will play Druid, because Druid is what I want to play. Druid sounds exactly like a class that I would enjoy.
Oh, that's a bummer.
As for anyone who has played the game so far, those are probably the two worst choices I could have made. Barbarian,
yeah, pretty much.
Actually, all right with the right setup, I think, and it was somewhat fun. Although I will say this: the most fun Barbarian build was a Thorns build, which doesn't interact with the combat like at all. So
again, I want to disagree lightly. When I set things up, I guess I wasn't going like a full Thorns build, so to speak, but I feel like you're still interacting in a way with the combat. I actually thought the Barbarian was pretty fun to play. Maybe not as fun as the Sorcerer, but if the Sorcerer had been balanced poorly, like the Barbarian was, then I think I would have had much more fun on the Barbarian, i.e. if they were of a piece in terms of their power level. Yeah, the Sorcerer has some more utility, etc., but I feel like they captured the class fantasy a little bit better with the Barbarian, although I do know a couple folks, Kriparian and some others, have mentioned that a lot of people might be expecting the Barbarian to be tankier than it actually was.
From the beginning, basically, felt like a very uninspired, uncreative, and boring experience throughout the entirety of it. And there's one exception to this, and that is the story, right? Like, if you play Diablo for the story, you can turn off the video right now. You know,
No. I want to hear more. What are you talking about, my guy? I was in everything he was saying. I was eating it up. The story was trash. That was the thing I criticized the most in my video. So what does he have to say about this? I've got to know.
You're fine. I cannot complain about that. If you're in it for the atmosphere and the story, go for it. Like, there's literally no problems there. But let's look at
nothing. You're not gonna give me anything. You know, and this has kind of been the way that I've seen most content creators approach the story, is they just check it off. Like, yep, it's good. And I get it. It's even more than a lot of the other parts of these games. It's a subjective thing, whether you like the story or not. But why is it good? Why do you think it's good? Compare and contrast it with another game. It doesn't even have to be compared with Diablo 2 or the first Diablo game or even Diablo 3, but compare it with something else. Give me some kind of an example of why it's actually good, instead of just saying, the story's great, because I don't think it was at all. All right, we'll move on, though.
The question that I was asking myself was, after all of this, after making so much money off of the Diablo name, literally milking their player base and their audience last year with a terribly predatory mobile game.
I hadn't even thought of that.
A fuckload of money with that, or out of that. How come none of this is being put back into the game?
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Where is this money going? Like, how is this possible that after...
I'll tell you where it went, man. They must have spent it all on that A++ story. They must have spent it all on those cutscenes.
Like, Diablo 2 was so humongous. Diablo 3 is one of the most sold games of all time. Diablo Immortal, literally just some dumpster fire mobile game, making hundreds, $100 million in revenue or whatever. And how come that this company is incapable of making something outstanding with that IP? Well, it's simple.
Good question.
Because they don't need to. right?
Yeah,
Like,
also true.
why would they put like humongous amounts of effort and money and passion into a project that will already sell stupid amounts of copies without trying? And that's kind of where I was like, we are just being milked because there's nothing really else competing with it, first of all, and there's also, and obviously people want a new iteration of Diablo, and they love Diablo, they love the world, they love the storylines. So
Just to play devil's advocate a little bit here, I think that a few years ago, Blizzard would have been, well, maybe even just a year ago, you could have said with a little bit more solidity that Blizzard could just make anything and that it would sell and they could milk an IP. But Dragonflight, for example, to my understanding, did not sell at all like they were projecting that it was going to. And it did seem like they put in some real effort. And I played it and it was fantastic. It's a really good expansion. And they did so much damage to that IP that lots of content creators have pointed out it's not going to be just one expansion that gets them back to where they can just put anything out and the people come in droves. And I don't know, I'd be interested in everybody's opinion on this. Do you think that Diablo Immortal, has that done any damage to the Diablo IP in the same way that Shadowlands did to World of Warcraft? Is it possible that Diablo 4 could come out and perform way under their projections? Because let's be real here for a minute. Maybe it's true that they're not making the best product that they can because they don't have to. But it's also true that you can just see from watching the way the narrative is set up, how safe the gameplay is, and all of that, that in the creative process, in the room when they're having these meetings, they are stifling people's creativity. That they're smushing things down to make it safe. And they're doing that for the purpose of trying to make sure that they get the sales that they want to get. And yes, that's sort of tertiary or connected to the concept of, just milking the IP, but it is a distinction worth consideration, I think.
if you're at all serious about playing this game, you will pay $90.
Right.
Most people will probably just say, well, fuck it, I'll just pay the $100 and, that's it. $90 for a mediocre combat experience, comparatively at least a terrible multiplayer experience. Like, you could literally play any other multiplayer game and it will feel way better, not as laggy and clunky and like random ass people spawning into your world. Like, this entire multiplayer stuff, by the way, I think in Diablo 4 is literally just there to sell the game and not so much to actually make the game better at all. They just want to sell it as something that it really isn't. Like, this, the multiplayer aspect is basically non-existent outside.
It's pretty bare bones.
World bosses, and if you see some random dude in the open world, that's not gonna, like, that doesn't really enhance your gameplay like whatsoever. I would even argue that it makes the game worse, because of that multiplayer aspect, they are introducing the world scaling, which is terrible, and they're also have these really chunky and weird loading screens between areas, and like it just makes the game just feel.
Well, I agree, but they could definitely have come up with a way to reduce the impact of the zone scaling and still have there be the open world multiplayer elements. Yes, it would mean there would be more of a chance that like a lesser geared or a lower level character would get destroyed in some areas, and maybe it would detract from the, overall immersion experience. But I think they could have executed the multiplayer without going so hard on the scaling and the normalization across the zones. It's unfortunate that they didn't, because having everything scaled to your level, I think it just feels terrible in an ARPG.
Feel a lot less smooth than it could be for no gameplay enhancement. Like, if there's one random dude in my event or not, that doesn't, like, I don't care. Like, that doesn't do anything. That's the same as like the argument with sharding or whatever other things in other MMOs that they have. But this is not an MMO either. Like, the gameplay is not enhanced by some other random dude killing a boar next to you. Like, it doesn't do anything, in
I
my
agree.
opinion, at least. So what I'm asking is, are we really going to just go into a Diablo 4 release, paying that much money, paying for expansions,
Yes.
maybe paying for a battle pass,
Yep.
while we get an experience that is not more than, yeah, Diablo 4 is alright, you know? The story is kind of good. Is that really the reaction we should get from such a...
No, we shouldn't, but that is what's gonna happen, in my view. I mean, I'm probably gonna end up buying the game. It'll be good for the channel. It'll be good to milk for content, which I'm doing now. And people are gonna buy it. I think is it gonna sell? I tried to play devil's advocate a few minutes ago, just for the sake of discussion, but overall, my view is that it is going to sell, and it's not a thing where content creators are going to be able to, sound the alarm and then suddenly nobody's going to buy the game.
A big title expanding? Like, should we be like, oh yeah, this is kind of okay, but all of these other things are shit. Oh yeah, the dungeons are fucking terrible. Oh yeah, like all of the renowned collectibles, ugh, that shit's so boring to me. Oh yeah, the combat feels kind of shitty on like most of the classes, and there's like 2 classes that feel kind of good. Or, like, the balance is completely all over the place. You know, my druid kills a boss like literally 5 times as slow as a necromancer does. Like, I don't even know how that's possible, that there's such a class disparity, even on the very first boss that you get to level 4. How is that even... Like, there's so many little things that just show they either haven't tested the game at all, or they simply don't give a fuck. And they're all of the devs are some couch co-op Andes that play the game to like level 20 super casually. They don't even pay attention to anything. They just...
To that point, I don't know if you guys saw this. I saw it. I think I watched Asmongold react to the video of it, but they literally did a thing where some of the devs were just like couch co-oping, and that's exactly what's going on. 100%. That's exactly the situation.
What I'm saying is, this game is incredibly shallow, and we can already gauge that from, the point we're at. Obviously, we haven't seen the Paragon board.
I agree.
And obviously, we probably haven't seen all of the, legendaries and uniques, I would guess. But baseline, this game is shallow as fuck. There's very little customization. Endgame, every class will have 1, maybe 2 viable builds. And I'm sure there's some things that will be completely broken because, as I said, it seems like they haven't tested anything. There's no way that half the boss fights in the game, at least half of them, feels like complete dog shit if you're on a melee class. And
yeah, I would say that there's literally zero chance that if they didn't manage to balance the very beginning of the game, and they have all of the player base that's tested it this weekend, and they're going to have to, surely they're going to change some of the balancing in the beginning of the game before release, but I mean, maybe not, I don't know, but let's assume that they're going to. Clearly they're not going to be able to balance the end game. I would imagine that he's spot on when he says there's going to be 1 or 2 viable builds for each class, and of course you're also going to get pigeonholed into certain types of builds because of the way that the affixes on gear are set up.
if you gave this game anything more than a 6 out of 10, you're fucking delusional. I would personally put it at a 4 out of 10, but that's maybe just me. Maybe I'm...
I don't know. I got to think about that. Because if you're saying if a 5 out of 10 is like mid, true mid, like it's take it or leave it, I think I would give it a 5. After having played a few of the classes, I think it's a little bit better than, but then maybe that's the difference, right? I didn't pre-order the game. I didn't put the money down. So if I had paid 70, 80 bucks already, 90 bucks, whatever it is, I guess I probably would be giving it a 4. I guess I would.
Too harsh, but I don't think it will be much more than that. A very casual couch co-op experience that you play through in a week. Then you get to the end game. Oh, there's a nightmare dungeon that you do for a little bit. Then you realize You will just run the same boring ass dungeons until you quit the game, basically. Then you have some, you know, artificial timers on world bosses. You'll probably do some daily-esque events, which will also feel incredibly repetitive. So that's my prediction. You know, my prediction is you will probably play this game for a week, maybe two. Then you will realize, oh, I'm just a hamster in a hamster wheel, which, by the way, running on that hamster wheel isn't even fun, you know? I would guess most people will quit the game in troves very, very quickly after its release. You'll play through the storyline, which might feel kind of okay. You get to the end game, you'll play that a little bit, you get your setup, and then it's just, you know, the carrot on a stick. Oh, just find the same item that you already have again with better stats. Listen, if there's this much imbalance in early game already, that makes some classes feel like gods and some classes feel like literal dog shit, and I'm not even talking about like fully decked out legendaries here, just baseline, okay? Just baseline, some classes feel so much worse, so much clunkier than others. It's crazy. Of course, again, there's a couple of other things in endgame that might save it, and maybe if you have the right combination of legendaries, and maybe if like some of the class masteries will actually make, you know, the
For me, if they were gonna save the end game, there needs to be chase items. So a la Headhunter, there needs to be an equivalent to, you know, very rare currency items. I thought that rune words, for example, all the higher tier runes would have been a really good idea for that type of an item. So it's not always just that you're hunting for this one specific legendary item. There's also, oh holy shit, I just dropped a X rune, whatever rune it is that happens to be the rarest, or, you know, of one of the more rare tiers. And maybe you trade that to another player, or maybe you then it's like, okay, well now I can make this crazy rune word. They need something like that. I did notice that when you look at the different world tier levels, there are some additional types of events that can spawn in the later difficulties, and maybe those would be cool. But you need some kind of content that isn't just the dungeons as presented here. There needs to be something that is more blastable. So I need chase items, I need chase currency or crafting mats, and I need some kind of content that is endlessly repeatable, that is actually fun to just fucking go over and over, just bam, bam, bam. And if they can't deliver those three things, then I'm going to play it for a couple weeks, as he said, when it comes out. I'm going to make the content, I'm going to make a build guide or two, and then I'm back to PoE, boys.
class feel better. But baseline, it doesn't feel good to play. Even on the good classes, by the way. I would even say that Sorcerer, although it definitely felt a lot better than Barb and Druid,
It did.
also didn't really wow me at all. I didn't enjoy the journey, and I'm not really looking forward to the destination of the game either.
Well
Outside of
said.
the game
Well
feeling
said.
graphically polished and having a good atmosphere, there was nothing that I was really impressed by, and that is the problem. Why do we have such low standards that we want to give a multi-billion-dollar company $90 and probably more later down the line? Blizzard isn't the only option anymore. There's many other ARPGs that you can try out today that might not have such a gritty and gory atmosphere and might not have a good storyline, but on any other aspect, they will outshine this game by a mile. So I would encourage everyone to try out some of those. I will not pay $90 for a half-baked, undercooked corporate milking project, especially not after being so bored. Even after the first day of the beta, I was bored already. Will the endgame make it more enjoyable? Probably, to an extent. It will probably make the classes feel a little bit better, but the endgame doesn't sound interesting either. Another corporate company that drags a very beloved name through the dirt for money, and not really reinvesting it back into the game, back into the community either. You know, it could have made the best ARPG ever made, but they decided not to do it because they don't need to, and that is
Yeah, and just to be clear, I don't think he means this either. And I've seen a lot of people that when you criticize Diablo, they immediately go like, well, it can't be Path of Exile. They're not going to be able to sell that type of a game to as many people. it does not have to be like Path of Exile in every way for it to be good. But this, I think we can all agree, I hope we can all agree, that even if you had a better time than he did or than I did playing the beta, this is not the best ARPG that's ever been released on any metric. There's not a single metric, unless you're going to be really petty and say that it's the graphics, which, okay, I guess. I guess the zones look pretty detailed. The fucking snow looks really detailed.
Exactly what laziness and complacency is. I don't want to support that anymore. I don't want to play mediocre ass games anymore that were made by huge ass companies that could make something truly outstanding. And that's kind of the point of this video. I'm just jaded with games being mediocre, although they could be really good, although they have a lot of potential, although the companies have all of the resources at their disposal. So yeah, that's why I refunded the game. Thank you for getting to the end of this video. This is probably my last Diablo 4 video, I would guess. I mean, there's always a chance that I'll repurchase it again if there's some actual changes to it, or people are saying, oh my god, the endgame is actually saving the game. It's, you know, it could always happen. I'm not gonna say I'm gonna never play Diablo 4, but
he's leaving the door open.
Are very, very low. And maybe, you know, the next video will be about Elden Ring or something completely different, who knows, about games that I actually think are good. So yeah, thanks for tuning in, guys. I guess I'll see you in the next one, maybe. And yeah, have a nice rest of your day. Peace.
All right. That was a killer video. I agreed with just about everything that he said. I thought it was a really nuanced and intelligent take. I think he had a lot of really good stuff to say. I'm going to drop a like on there. And yeah, I'm not super seasoned in terms of making reaction content, so I don't know, maybe I talked too much, maybe I didn't talk enough. But I enjoyed doing that. I enjoyed going through this and hearing the perspective of somebody who actually put some money down. And yeah, that's all I've got for you guys today. I will see you in the next video. I appreciate you.